Hello, everybody. My name is Denise Russell, and I'm a Senior Solutions Engineer at Deltek. And today we're going to talk about scheduling integration in the real world. You may be asking yourself, isn't all scheduling done in the real world? And the answer to that question is yes and no. I've been working in project scheduling for over 20 years. I've worked in multiple industries, and no two project schedules are completely alike. The commonalities between IT schedules are not going to be the same as the commonalities between construction schedules or manufacturing schedules. If your schedule has to conform to earned value best practices, it isn't going to necessarily look the same as a schedule that doesn't have that requirement. Agile schedules are completely different than the traditional critical path method, or what we would call a waterfall type schedule. But when we talk about programs consisting of multiple projects or projects involving subcontractors and trying to create a true integrated master schedule, that's where the real world can be much more complex than the theoretical one. And what I want to talk about today is how we can remove some of that complexity so that you have more time to spend focusing on managing the project instead of just managing project data. When we talk about programs or large projects, these are often collaborative efforts. You aren't just managing your schedule, but also having to take into consideration schedules from partners or subcontractors. With programs, there might be separate schedules for each of the projects within the program. When working with partners and subcontractors, it may not be in your control what scheduling tool they're using. So how can you create and manage an integrated master schedule if you're getting multiple schedule files from multiple sources, potentially in multiple formats? And that's where Acumen, Touchstone, and Open Plan can help. And that's what I'll be demonstrating today. Utilizing Acumen, Touchstone, and Open Plan, you can streamline the receipt of and also import schedules from different tools, including Open Plan, obviously, Microsoft Project, or Primavera. Once loaded into Open Plan as part of an integrated master schedule, you can link projects together via schedule logic, run critical or driving paths to either the project or at the program level. You can also perform other analysis work at multiple levels of the program, like resource analysis and management or schedule risk analysis. As part of the session today, I'm going to spend a few minutes talking about how Acumen, Touchstone, and Open Plan fit into Deltek's PPM suite as a whole, and what other tools outside of Deltek they integrate with. Then I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into the tools themselves and the functionality that each provides, both individually and when utilized together. Lastly, I'm going to jump into the tools themselves and demonstrate what creation and management of an integrated master schedule can look like in the real world with data coming in from multiple sources. So Open Plan and Touchstone are part of Deltek's Project and Portfolio Management, or PPM, suite of tools. They're highlighted here on the slide. They are independent tools, as are all of the pieces of Deltek's PPM suite. And that is done so organizations can really pick and choose tools based on their specific functionality needs. So whether or not you need a cost management system as well, you might want to bring in Cobra, or whether you want automated workflows, you might bring in PM Compass. If you want to perform in-depth schedule quality analysis or schedule risk analysis, you might bring in the Acumen suite of tools. If you would like any more information on Deltek's PPM tools, there will be contact information presented at the end of this session. So talking about Acumen, Touchstone, and Open Plan specifically. At a high level, Acumen Touchstone automates the receipt and analysis of schedules from another source. And that source can be internal or external. So when we talk about internal versus external, you might have, again, those partners, subcontractors submitting schedules to you, or maybe you are simply doing the management portion of a program, and so everybody's submitting their schedules to you. From an internal standpoint, you might have a program with multiple projects going on, and you want to kind of formalize the submission and acceptance of those pieces of the project from an internal source. Touchstone can absolutely do that as well. It is a new tool. It streamlines that process of receiving and analyzing schedule inputs. Some of you might already be familiar with Acumen Fuse, Risk 360, and Touchstone is in that same family of tools. The schedule quality analysis functionality provided by Acumen Fuse is the basis for the quality checks that Touchstone runs when a schedule is submitted through it. Open Plan, on the other hand, it's a robust scheduling tool. It integrates with the most commonly used project scheduling tools such as Primavera P6, Microsoft Project. Independently of Touchstone, it also integrates with flat files like a CSV. By using Open Plan as the basis for your integrated master schedule, it removes the requirement for everyone involved having to use the same scheduling tool. A lot of times that's completely out of your control. In some cases, if you dictate a specific tool, then you're required to provide that tool, and that's not necessarily cost effective. But by allowing this, it enables you to create a true integrated master schedule, combining schedule data from a multitude of sources and including it with your wraparound activities and milestones. So when we're talking programs, you might have programmatic milestones that go across all of the projects or all of the subcontractors, and you can store that information in Open Plan and use it to fully integrate everything together. As Touchstone is new, I would like to spend a few minutes just discussing kind of how it works. With Touchstone, schedules are submitted to you through a portal according to delivery deadlines and parameters that you establish. Upon submittal, those schedules are automatically evaluated utilizing metrics that you've identified in advance. They can pretty much be anything. A common one might be the 14-point assessment. You might want schedules to meet basic requirements of that. You can also have hard and fast requirements, like if they have actuals in the future or forecasts in the past, that it just is automatically rejected. You can identify all of that in advance. When submitted, the schedule file is scored based upon those metrics, and then either rejected or accepted based upon whatever minimum score that you determine. The schedule is then stored for archival purposes. One, this allows you to have that history, and then it also allows you to monitor adherence to the best practices and standards that you've defined via those metrics over the life of the project or the life of the program. Once a schedule has been accepted, then it's available to you for download, and then you would just incorporate that into your integrated master schedule. We're going to walk through that process and kind of look at what that looks like, what it takes. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the tools themselves now. So this is Touchstone, and there are two roles in Touchstone. One is an owner, and one is a submitter. So as an owner, when I log into Touchstone, I am going to see all of the programs that I have access to. Within those programs, there might be a single project, there might be 10, 15, 20 projects. That's just going to be based upon my individual situation. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this zoo program here and click on that. And when I do, it is going to give me overall statistics and status information for my entire program. So this is very top level information. If I come over here to the projects tab, it's going to show me all of the projects that I have associated with this program. In this case, I have 3 projects in this program. I'm going to go ahead and click on our aquarium restoration. And then I'm going to again get that top level information, but it is specific to this particular project. Once I'm in this screen, then if I come over here to the snapshot tab, what I'm going to have is information on submittals. So whether a submittal has been rejected or it's been accepted, or if it was never submitted at all, I would have that information. If it has been accepted, I can actually, and this is accepted based upon, again, that scoring criteria, I can actually see the score that the file was given. And if I click on that number, I can actually download the same file that the submitter got when they submitted it. And for this particular project, we had it being scored according to the 14-point assessment. And so I would get a list of any things that exceeded those standards. So that way, you know, if I failed, then I would be able to see what exactly the problems were with my file. If I come over here to the name itself of the particular project file, I can click on it and that will download it for me to my local drive. Once I have gone through my projects and kind of gathered up all of the project files for a particular reporting period, at that point, that's when I would want to probably, you know, just to make things easier myself, download all the files I need, then go into Open Plan and import all of those files that I need. So let's go ahead and switch over to Open Plan. Now, because we're talking integrated master schedules, I have created an integrated master schedule in here. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. I can see right here what it is made of. So in this instance, I have my 3 projects, Bear, Fish, and Welcome. Within there, I have created project files. Some of these are from partners or subcontractors. Some of them might be in my own internal organization doing work, whether I store that directly in Open Plan, or I can have them submit that information to me via that Touchstone portal to be scored and treated just like everything else. So this identifies that structure. So I'm going to go ahead and open everything up. And I will see my entire integrated master schedule here. This particular project just started, so I don't have any status information in it. It is my first reporting period. So I do have a milestone I need to report in, which was my program start. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that now. It started on time. Which was the 1st of November. And that milestone is now 100% complete. Now, my time now is currently set at November 1st because I am now at the end of my reporting period and I'm going to be pulling in all of the status from my partners, subcontractors, internal departments for the month of November. I'm going to go ahead and make my status date go through that entire period. Now, when I am in my top level file, I do have all of my data here. I can see all of my data. I can look at all of my logic. I can do anything that I would at any other level of the program. But when I'm importing data, I'm going to want to do that at the lowest level possible. And that is one, because you're segregating that piece. And two, because Open Plan has the ability to import data at that level, it also means I can export data at that level. And by doing it that way, if I do need to export data, they're only going to be getting information on their portion of the schedule, not everybody else's information, which is sometimes required for data security. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to go down to those lower level files, and I'm going to import those updates. So we're going to, and for the 4 files that I'm actually going to be importing, one of them is a P6 XCR file. One of them is a Microsoft Project MPP file. And then I have 2 different Open Plan files, including that one we just saw that I was downloading in Touchstone. So for the Primavera file, I'm just going to say I have a P6 import. I am going to select my file that import relates to. When the first time I do it, it's going to give me the ability, and I can update this anytime too. But the first time I do it, it's going to create an options file, a mapping file, so that I don't have to go through a bunch of steps every single time that I'm doing this. Default commonly used fields like actual dates, percent complete, baseline dates, things like that, those are going to come over automatically. I don't have to worry about mapping those. But if I've had them create any custom fields to represent additional data or something like that, then I'm going to need to map that to make sure that it is coming through and going to where I want it to in Open Plan. So I've already selected the project it's going to in my settings. So all I'm going to do is make sure that this page is correct, which is that I am only updating my project status and making sure that I'm utilizing the correct status date. It is going to pull that information in, completed successfully. Next, I'm going to do the same thing with my Microsoft project file. And again, I have made this mapping. So it in settings, and it's going to save them so it knows everything that I want to do. Additionally, when I make that mapping, whether I'm making the import first or an export first, it will give me the option to create a mirrored copy of the other. And what I mean by that is when I make a mapping for an import, it's going to ask me, do you want to make the exact mapping in an export as well? And that way, if you are sending information back and forth, then you're always putting data in the same place. And you're not leaving anything out on accident. So you do have that ability to create a mirrored import and export. So same thing, I'm just going to double check that my configurations are correct. Update status only. Here's my date. We're going to go ahead and finish. And again, when it's done, I'm just going to get a little blurb saying that it has either completed successfully or completed with errors. In this case, completed successfully. Then I'm going to bring in those 2 Open Plan files that I got. The process for that's a little bit different because they're Open Plan files and I'm utilizing Open Plan. So I'm going to do this one first, select that one. If the customer sent additional data like views or something like that, I probably really don't want to bring that in, so I'm just unchecking those. Same thing if they made an update to their resource table or something, if they were sending me resources, then I might want to bring that in. But in this case, I'm just bringing in my project, which is right there. And so here it's going to say this already exists. So do I want to overwrite it, skip it, or rename it? I'm going to go ahead and select overwrite. Now, that might sound a little odd, but the data like relationships with every other project file within the integrated master schedule, that is all stored in a separate table that is not involved in this process right here. So it is not going to be overriding or changing anything like that. This is just if, in case that they have added or removed activities or something like that. Any what we would call external relationships that the file might have had with other subcontract files, those are all going to be maintained. So we're going to go ahead and restore that one. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in that fourth file, which again was an open plan file. This was that fish file. We're going to bring that one in. Same thing. I don't need to bring in anything else. Just my project data right there. I'm going to go ahead and finish again, overwrite there. Now I have all of my files imported. So now that that's done, what I can do is I can either open them up on an individual basis and look at them. So let's look at that one we just did. I can go ahead and open it up and look at that file by itself. I can see this because this file was at 0 before. I can see that information right here. It's picking up that update that I made to my top level program milestone. So that's what I mean by it is not overriding anything that's in anyone else's file. That is still 100% there. Because I'm seeing it here, that means the relationship still exists there. Let me go ahead and close that one though. And I'm going to go ahead and open up again that top level integrated master schedule. I'm going to go ahead and open everything. Now, because I just brought a bunch of data in, I'm going to run a time analysis to kind of sync everything up there. When we looked at this last time, there was no project data in it, but if I open up that progress spreadsheet, now I see I have completed activities, which if you'll notice all of these different colors and symbols and things, that's all conditional formatting that has been applied to this view to highlight important bits of information. Conditional formatting in Open Plan works just like it does in Excel. So you can do things like this little check mark, which if I hover over it is telling me that activity is complete. So I can see that that data came in from that Bayer subcontractor file. So I have all of that data in here and all of those updates. So now kind of, now what? From that standpoint, now that I have all of my updates in, I'm looking at my true integrated master schedule. This is where I have the ability to do analysis at any level of my program. So for example, I can run a critical path to the end of my program. Hop over here, driver analysis. Let's run, look at 3 paths, perform analysis. And it is going to give me my critical path to my program complete milestone, which is highlighted here in green. And I can see that that path is going through all of my different subcontractor, subproject files here. And you can see in the activity ID, because it has the file name, I have some from the Bayer project. I have some from the Fish project. I have some from the Welcome project. Those are all driving my critical path to completion. And everything's completely tied up and integrated with each other. If I wanted something a little bit more visual, I can actually create a network diagram specific to what is leading to that particular milestone. And look at that as well. And I can see the activities that are complete or the activities that are in progress. Whether I am on what we would call a bar chart or Gantt chart view or a network logic view. I can filter, I can sort, I can group, I can change what these look like. Right now I have 5 fields. I can change that to 15 fields if I want to. Everything in all of my views is completely configurable and interactive. If I double click on my box, I'm getting all of my information for that activity that is down in that lower level subcontractor file. If they're including resources, I would have that information. Relationships, I can see how it's relating both within that file, that subcontract file, as well as how it's relating to my other files. Same thing from over here. I can click on an activity and see all of the information that is going to relate to it from a resource standpoint, relationship standpoint, what have you. If I wanted to just look at certain portions of this, let me exit out of my integrated master schedule here. Say, for example, that, 3 of my files were actually my internal work. So let's take off these. So say these 3 were all internal work that my organization was responsible for. So I have resource loaded those sub-project files because those are my resources. I'm just going to open up those files because I have the resources for them. Say I want to look at what does that resource spread look like. I can choose to display a histogram, and I'm just going to pick a resource. And I can actually look at across those project files, which are my company's staff, what does that resource requirement look like? And see, based upon the baseline, which is these green, dark green bars, compared to where that work is currently scheduled for, because now I've put in status. So where are my early dates? That's where my work is really expected to occur. That's where those resources are expected to be on the job. That's my early dates. And then I have this red line. Unfortunately for me, that is the amount of that resource that I picked of how much of that resource I have. So I can see coming up in 2024, I've got a big old problem in that for my program, the individual groups who might be managing their own pieces of the project, and they've scheduled what they think they need, maybe haven't taken into account what other people have also scheduled that they need. And so now I know in 2024, I've got a big old problem of they've scheduled more folks than I have available to use. In that case, then I have some time. I can bring in actual contractors. I can put out recs. I can also try and smooth this out. I can see if there's room to potentially reorganize or delay work, kind of flatten things out a little bit. Open Plan can actually help with automating some of that smoothing. I can also assign alternate resources. In this case, this file is built with a project labor code. If it was built with individual named people, I can swap one resource out for another. So I have a lot of options, but at least I know now at the beginning of 2022 that come mid 2024, I'm going to have a resource crunch, and then I have time to do something about it. If my partners or subcontractors have included their resources, I would be able to look at theirs as well. But that's, I would say, not very common. A lot of times they're going to give you the work, not necessarily want to give you that resourcing information, but it really just depends on what they're going to send to you. But again, I have the ability to either do that down at that micro level, or I can take it all the way up and look at things at that macro IMS level. But I have some flexibility. I don't have to dictate, you must use this tool because that's what I'm using. Feel free to use what you want to use. I'm going to use what I want to use because that's what works for me. But either way, Open Plan just kind of opens a lot of doors and chances for you to be flexible. And Touchstone, by kind of taking, some of that analysis out of your lap and doing it automatically on the front end, again, it's saving you time. It's giving you more flexibility. If they want to submit it at 11 o'clock at night, you don't need somebody sitting there waiting for it to check on it to see if it's, just a completely technically terrible schedule or if it's a technically acceptable schedule. Touchstone, they don't care. It's up at 11 o'clock at night and it will score it and accept it or reject it. And when you get in the morning, it's either there and ready to go, or hopefully they're resubmitting if it was rejected. But that's kind of all that we have for today's presentation. I do thank you for your time today. And if you have any questions about Touchstone, about Open Plan, really about any of Deltek's project and portfolio management tools, feel free to reach out to us. Email ppm@deltek.com. You can also go to www.deltek.com/ppm, and we are on Twitter as well. But thank you for your time and have a good day.